MacVoices TV at Macworld 2010 is sponsored by Data Robotics, the makers of Drobo and Drobo S, the world's best data storage experience. Good afternoon, Macworld. Thank you for joining us in the music studio. I'm Chuck Joyner, and we're going to tape an edition of the MacJury, one of the MacVoices Group shows that we produce on a regular basis. You can find them all at MacVoicesGroup.com. We put together a panel of very distinguished Mac experts and pundits.
Unfortunately, they couldn't show up, so we stuck with us.
Very good, very good. So we'll just introduce the panel to you so you know who you will be hearing from. And I'll ask you to give a round of applause to each one in turn, and I'll give you a reason to do it. Tonya Engst of Tidbits and Take Control, who is wearing purple sneakers. Tonya? Yes? She of the purple sneaker. There you go. On the end, Mr. Ted Landau, who is a Mac expert who has forgotten more than most of us will ever know. Ted, thank you so much for coming. Mr. Jeff Gamet from the Mac Observer and Design Tools Weekly and the Apple Context Machine. Right. And I'd like you to give him a round of applause because he's wearing pants this afternoon. If you know Jeff, you know that's an accomplishment. Last but absolutely not least, one of the gentlemen who rocked the Cirque du Mac party last night as part of the Macworld All-Star Band, Mr. Chuck Tournous. Chuck, thank you. Great job last night.
Thank you.
Great job. I'm sorry, random access. Do it for me.
2 M's, 2 C's, 2 S's. Random access. Thank you.
Thank you. We would like to get some questions from you eventually, but we thought we'd just start out by talking about what we've seen on the show that was cool and what we think of Macworld 2010 as opposed to some of the discussions and the projections that were made about the show. Ted, I'll start on the end with you. How are you finding the show, especially in light of the fact that you were one of the ones who maybe had a few doubts about how this was going to go?
Well, I posted a column about it today, and I can tell you that what I said was that the Expo, as far as I'm concerned, is a success. Clear and simple, no doubt about it, by any measure. It isn't obviously the biggest Expo that we've ever had, but that wasn't the question. The question was, is this an Expo that could survive without Apple? Would there be a reason to come? Would people come? Is it going to be good enough that it's likely to happen again next year? Will it maybe even get bigger next year? And by all those measures, the answer is yes to all those questions. The conferences were reasonably packed. The floor, as you can obviously see, is busy. I can barely hear what I'm saying now. There's a lot of activity, a lot of worthwhile booths. The feature presentations were wonderful. Kevin Smith yesterday was great for me. I would have come just for that. So it's been great as far as I'm concerned.
That's great. Tonya, I know you see it from a little different perspective. You're probably a little more of a business person here trying to get things done. How is that working out for you?
From a business perspective, this is a great show. It's actually a little bit less crowded and crazy, so there's more time to network. There's a lot of people here to make connections with, and I just see a lot of happy people, really happy to be here, and just enough depth of products and variety of products that being on the show floor is useful in its own right.
And there's iJustine behind us.
There's iJustine. Hi, iJustine. Nice to see you.
Hello.
Yes, and Leo Laporte is over here signing or shaking hands. So they all came to see us right now. Probably not. Jeff, Tonya just said something interesting. Happy people, and that's exactly what it is. It's just a lot of smiling faces, like you would see at any expo. So that much doesn't seem to have changed.
No, actually, yes, you're right. It's lots of happy people, and what I've been seeing is a lot of high energy on the floor and at the events that are going on outside of the expo. So, like Cirque du Mac party last night, it was full of energy, and it was full of a lot of people that were very excited to be here, and it was clear that energy was carrying over from what's going on here at the show. And I think it's a two-pronged thing that's making people so happy. First, they're seeing a lot of other people here, so no one is showing up and seeing a ghost town. And I think a lot of people were kind of afraid that they might be the only people here. And that's not what happened, because everyone is here. So that made people very happy. And then the fact that there's so much hustle and bustle going on. I mean, I've actually had to apologize to companies because I've been late to meetings because I couldn't get through the crowds. And what a great problem to have, especially on a year when so many people were worried about how the show would turn out and were predicting doom, gloom, and the end of the world.
Chuck, I think this year we've had to rethink Macworld in a lot of ways because of some of the, I don't know how else to say it, kind of attacks on it and doubts and all. I think we've started to see Macworld as an asset. For a long time we took it for granted that, oh yeah, see you next year. And that started not to be the case. You start to say, okay, maybe we won't. And that changed perceptions, I think, a lot, and expectations. I think Tonya's one that said it. Ted, I don't think there's any question there'll be a next year. The people that aren't here have missed an opportunity.
Yeah, and one of the things that I tweeted about yesterday is for the vendors who decided to wait it out and see what was going to happen, well, they're losing an awful lot of mind share out there because there are other exhibitors happy to take the attention away from them, and that's what's happening. So, in my opinion, those vendors are going to have a lot of ground to make up because they've given a competitive edge to some of their competitors. And I was talking with some of the IDG folks a little earlier, and they were asking me, well, what does the show feel like? What does it feel like out on the floor? And I said, it feels like Macworld. It doesn't feel like the ghost of Macworld or Macworld on its last legs or some other kind of lesser consumer event. This is Macworld. How about you guys? Does this feel like Macworld?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And for all the doom and gloom that people were espousing beforehand, Apple's not going to show, it's going to be terrible. I have not heard that comment from one person, either an exhibitor or an attendee, since the show started. Not one person has come up to me and said, it isn't the same without Apple. I think Apple's absence is largely not felt at all for the people who are on the show floor.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm jumping in because that's how I roll.
You what?
I'm jumping in because that's how I roll.
Jump.
All right, so Chuck, you were talking about the companies that aren't here but are kind of here because they're talking to people outside of the expo. I think it's going to be very important for those companies to figure out that, yes, they do need to be on the expo floor for the show to be successful long term, because vendors are the people that are paying the most money to make an expo happen. So without all the companies inside Moscone Center as opposed to outside in hotels and meeting at restaurants and things like that, okay, those people have to sign up again next year as vendors. I think that if they don't, we'll be able to keep Macworld Expo going for a few more years, but then the viability will kind of die away because you'll have too many vendors not on the floor. So what I'm hoping is that all these people that are looking at this as their experiment year and not paying to be on the floor will decide, yes, it's worth it, and we'll come back onto the floor next year so we have a bigger show floor again. But more importantly, we have those companies that need to be here to support the event.
So I'm going to jump in now, too, because that's how Jeff rolls. There's been a kind of shift in the paradigm, whereas Jeff was saying, before the show, the idea was that the vendors have to come here to support the Mac community. And I think that now we've proven that the vendors need to come back next year in order to support themselves. The community is doing just fine without the people who didn't show up. So next year, those people need to be there, not for us, but for themselves, for their own viability.
And in that regard, I don't think anything will sell the vendors more than hearing from the other vendors who are here as to how successful it was. When a vendor says, I can't believe the traffic that I was getting, and I'll get all this attention, that's what's going to get the other vendors back, more than just us saying that we had a good time.
Welcome to Macworld.
There we are, first time Macworld guy.
Yeah, we were down the street last night. 3 people told me, boy, this is the worst ever. They hated it, and then I told them, I'm sorry, because you didn't get here. This morning, just getting here, 3 or 4 people have seen my tag on Macworld. Where's the Macworld? Well, it's really terrible, isn't it? I have not, the only people that have talked to me, seen my dad, whatever, said how lousy it was. That's the word on the street, and I wasn't going out to talk to them.
And see, that's the gentleman is saying that the word on the street is that it's lousy because it's not, I guess, I don't want to put words in your mouth, it's not like it was, that it's so much smaller. I think they're missing the point. They're missing the point that to compare it to other years is not really not fair and not realistic. This is an evolutionary year. Apple's no longer here. For some reason, that a lot of people seem to think that changed the game. It did change the game. Now, all these people get to have a whole lot more attention than they ever did before.
I asked them to explain to me. One lady explained to me what do you mean? And she said, well, because Apple's not here, Epson's not here, Santa's not here, Elkin's not here, all these are suppliers, don't people support the Macworld aren't here. So then I got a bigger picture. Wow, I didn't realize that.
Well, okay, keep in mind that the Mercury News ran an article, I think it was this morning, talking about how Macworld Expo is dead, and I haven't read the article myself. Someone was telling me about it, so I'm very loosely paraphrasing, but it was a negative coverage article of the expo. So there's a lot of people that have probably been reading that and maybe haven't even been on the showroom floor, so they don't know. All they're seeing is an article that has numbers that have been portrayed in a way that are bad.
I don't know that. People I talked to them that had been to the show yesterday.
That had been? Was it?
I've heard people say, oh, it's smaller. Well, yeah, it's smaller. What in this economy isn't smaller? And that's not an excuse, that's a statement of fact. So, but you look around, I don't see a lot of people saying, oh, it's dead, and deciding to go and have a beer in one of the nearby restaurants. They're here on the show floor. They're seeing people, they're buying stuff, they're excited. They're learning about new products. And that's the part, there seems to be this terrible desire to always find the negative in things. I don't think we have to look for the positive. I think it's right out here, just beyond the walls of this stage, running around with all the noise. So, yes, ma'am. Here, I want to start trying to get out here.
I'm taking home as much cool stuff as I did last year. I found great apps. I found great software. That's what I come for, is for ideas and software and stuff that I've seen that I want to be able to pick up here. And it's all working for me. So I've had a great day here, and I'm really pleased with it. I wish Apple hadn't gone away, and there are a few vendors that it's like, oh, gee, too bad. But I sure found plenty of good stuff, so I'm feeling pretty good about it. So, yeah.
Great. Tonya, you've been quiet. What difference does it make that Apple is here or isn't here?
Well, I've heard a few people say that they were disappointed with the show too. And I think a lot of it is just that it's very different and it's hard to get used to change. If you're used to something that's just a huge spectacle that takes up the entire Moscone, this is less of a spectacle, more of the booths are smaller, it's just a little bit more calm, and it's different. I think people have trouble with change. And I think also we're breaking up into more niches. So when you used to come to Macworld maybe 15 years ago, there would be huge booths and there'd be applications that almost everybody wanted to do. Like you'd go to the WordPerfect booth. This is a long time ago. They'd put you in recliners, they'd feed you M&Ms, and they'd give you a demo. And almost everybody sat through that demo because almost everybody was really interested in word processing on the Mac. But now, nobody would sit through a demo of another word processor on the Mac, and there's a lot more niche applications. You've got iPhone apps for losing weight, you've got iPhone apps for visiting Disneyland, you've got personal organizers and outliners and movie-making software, so it's much more. Any individual person might only be interested in 20% of the products, and there's probably very few products that everybody's interested in. So it's a kind of a different mindset. You might have to look a little harder to find the stuff that really wows you because you're going to be different from most other people. But I mean, there's no question there's energy on the floor today. So I think you have to make what you will of it.
Well, speaking of the history, I mean, there's no doubt in regard to what you were saying. There's absolutely no doubt that this is not the best expo in the history of expos. And people who were at the last year's expo and are asking the question, is this as good as last year? The answer is going to be no, in my opinion. And it's apparently, in their opinion, quite clearly, too. That wasn't the question that I was exactly asking myself, and I don't think that's what is the criterion for whether this expo is a success. The context is that no one expected this to be as good as last year. The context is this going to be good enough that it's worth coming to? Now, some of the people he spoke to apparently thought it wasn't because it's missing some vendors, and I can understand that. Some of the people, I still feel that some of the people that are saying negative things probably have never been on the floor. I know some people I spoke to weeks ago that thought that Macworld Expo had been canceled because they thought that when Apple pulled out, that was equivalent to the Expo being canceled. And so there's a lot of information that goes on about the Expo. And also from Art's perspective, I think of the people sitting here at the table, there's another bit of history that we're aware of what happened when Apple pulled out of the Boston Expo. And that was a complete disaster. And anything that's distinctly different from that has all the hallmarks of a success. And this is very different from that. And so I guess whether you view it as a success or not, it depends a bit on your perspective, what history you carry with you, and so on. But the bottom line for me is not whether someone thinks it's a failure or a success, because I can tell you for sure, I haven't been to one expo where I didn't run into somebody who said this expo stinks, it was much better last year. Somebody's always saying that. So the real question is, will it be back next year? And will it be better next year than it is this year? If it's back next year better than this year, this year was a success as far as I'm concerned.
And we've seen Expo go through evolutions before, not necessarily with Apple pulling out, but there have been times when the market, the economy, the Mac market was not what it could be, and we saw a decline, and it's come back as strong as ever. There's just too much value here. How about you folks, though? How many people will come back next year if we can expect Apple Expo to be the same? Yeah, that's the vast majority. It's not quite unanimous. You didn't have your hand up, Joel.
He's not coming back.
He's not coming. Yeah. Well, we didn't need him anyway. So. Okay. Well, we have to ask the obvious question then. What have you seen that's cool on the show floor? Because that's what everybody always does at Expo. What have you seen that you couldn't live without, or what is so compelling? Chuck, I'll start up at this end with you because I know you made notes.
I did my homework this time. I was a good boy. I saw no comment.
Uh-oh, he's using the secret notebook.
I saw. By the way, if you stop at Omni's booth, they'll give you these cool little notebooks. They're very, very nice.
It already comes pre-filled with what's cool at the expo. That's right.
And it all says OmniGraphal, that's all that stuff. I like the diversity of things here. For me, I don't remember the last time I bought a Macintosh application. We have the big apps. We have Microsoft Office, and we're going to update it, and some of us have Photoshop and maybe some web creation. So I'm really interested in kind of the periphery of the mainstream computer experience. So some of the hardware things that I saw out there were very cool. There were a lot of external battery manufacturers, so that you can add some juice to your iPhone when you take it out, including what I thought is a neat thing to watch for the future, some solar-powered iPhone chargers. So the idea is if you go camping or hiking and you're going to be away from a power source for a long time, you can hang this little solar panel off of your phone, keep it on the top of your backpack, and let it get some sun, and you still have a fully charged phone. I thought that was really neat. Some of the other things I saw were in this iPhone pavilion, where you have a couple dozen developers in one spot who suddenly now have the chance to break free of the clutter of the 140,000 applications on the App Store and show off some really cool applications. So if you haven't gone there, I would highly recommend that you make a visit over there. One of the apps that I'll talk about is called, referring back to my notes, it's called Mood Agent. So it kind of works like Genius does in iTunes, except it bases the selections on what your mood is at the time. Not just the songs that you like, but what kind of mood you're in. So it's got little settings, and you can say, I'm feeling a little frisky, I'm feeling a little arrogant, I'm feeling grumpy, I'm happy. Adjust that with your sliders.
Why did you look at me when you said grumpy?
I thought he looked at you when he said frisky.
I hope not. Sorry.
Wait a minute. Whose leg is that under the...
Oh, hey!
Hey! Okay. But anyway, so then it goes up to its servers, and it finds songs that are on your iPod that it thinks that you'll like based on your mood. You can even tell it, I want something fast or slow. So that was pretty cool. Music apps. There's something called iBone. It's a trombone simulator for your iPhone, which is very slick. So not only can you slide out the little slider on the phone and it makes noise, it also has all the notes for each position on the trombone's valve, so that you're actually learning while you're playing this. So I have a 12-year-old son who was a trombone player last year in school and kind of gave it up this year. So I'm going to buy this app for him and hope that it re-sparks his interest in the trombone. So we'll see how that works out. But there are a bunch of other things, but I'll give everybody else a chance for now.
Jeff, you can't look at Chuck's notes. What did you see that was cool?
Wait, would I like to give me?
All right, Chuck.
All right, so there's actually a lot of really cool stuff to look at. So I'll just pick a couple things. Okay, in the little iPod or iPhone app pavilion thing over there, there's an application called Office 2, and it's an application that gives you a Microsoft Office compatible suite on your iPhone. And so you can create, edit, and view like Word, Excel, PowerPoint documents. And it can also sync like with Dropbox and other things and with Google Docs so that you can create your Microsoft Office documents in one place and work with them here too. And then take content from here and push it back out to your desktop computer. So that was really cool. Then I was taking a look at the new version of Navigon, which is one of the turn-by-turn applications, GPS applications for the iPhone. And I really like that they've added in this kind of 3D view, because typically you get this flat plane when you're looking at your directions. And so that might be a little bit misleading as to where you're really supposed to go and where you're supposed to turn, because a purple line on a flat plane doesn't tell you, oh, you're actually going over 2 hills and around the bend. And so that was really cool, being able to see the mountains and everything. And I should pick like a hardware thing since I just did 2 applications. Oh, okay. So there's this little thing called, is it Vibe or Shake? It's like this. Oh, crap, I can't remember the company's name. Okay, it's over, I think, in the Dr. Bot area. And it's this little, it's like a triangle thing. And I think it's called Vibe. And what it does is it vibrates and turns whatever it is that it's contacting into a speaker system.
TuneBug.
Yeah.
TuneBug.
See, you should have given me your notes. Yeah. That's it.
Hey, I want that one.
TuneBug.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
So it's the TuneBug Vibe. There we go. You were both holding out on me.
No, thank
Anyhow,
you.
it's really cool. You just put it on something, and it turns whatever that is into a speaker system. It's really cool.
And Jeff, did you know, because I looked at the TuneBug too, that the founder of this company is also the guy who founded Radio Shack and Sound Blaster Creative Labs. So he's got a really good history going for him as far as success stories. And they're coming out with, in the next couple months, a microphone for the TuneBug, so that while you're riding your bike and playing on your snowboard, you can actually not just hear your music, but make phone calls, answer your phone.
I love it.
So you can, while you're doing an ollie in midair, you can, hello, Ma, guess where I am?
Tonya, help.
I want 3.
Life is stranger than fiction. A really great company that you should absolutely check out if you're here, if you're not already working with them, is the Crash Plan folks. And what they do is offsite backup. So basically, at night or when you're sort of not using your computer, or even really when you are, you can send an entire backup of your computer through the internet, either to servers that they host for you, or to a friend's hard drive somewhere across the town or across the country. This is an incredibly effective, efficient way to make an offsite backup. And for just a normal home user, it's free. They sort of use the home users a little bit as a test base and a little bit as a way to get corporate clients, because they can say, we already know how to back up 30,000 people, so we can easily back you guys up. It's a really good service. I use it. Most of the people who I work with use it, and it's free, and you get an offsite backup, and it's pretty reliable. So you should just go over there and find out about it, because everybody needs a backup. Everybody needs a backup. Crash Plan. Crash Plan. And the best way to use it is to find a friend across town who has the same problem you do. You mutually install hard drives in each other's houses, and then you just back up to the hard drive in the other person's house. And that way, yeah, if there's an earthquake that takes out your whole city, you've still lost your offsite backup. But theft and fire, you're good for. And you can kind of bond over, making backups with each other. So it's geeky and friendly. And I really recommend the service.
And a quick point on Tonya's recommendation of Crash Plan. At the show, they are giving away a license code for their $60 product, Crash Plan Plus. All you have to do is show up, talk to them, they'll give you something. So it's like getting a $60 product for free. All you have to do is show up. So go over, like Tonya said, I think it's a big green sign over there. No, it's a big white sign right behind Microsoft.
I think they're right behind the Microsoft booth.
Yeah. Good pick. Ted?
Yeah, I always have trouble when people ask me that question because, and using the examples that were just given of Crash Plan and Navigon. They're great products, both of them. I've used Crash Plan and I use Navigon a lot, but they're not new to me. I mean, I saw Crash Plan at CES last month. I was aware of it for months before that. I got Navigon the day just about that it was in the App Store months ago, and they add new features all the time. And so when in the absence of listening to other people, if you said to me, what's the coolest thing I saw at the expo, I wouldn't think of those two, because I'm thinking, well, what's something that I saw that I haven't seen before? What's something that I saw that was just announced yesterday when the expo opened? And there aren't too many of those things. That isn't the way the expo works as much anymore. And so if you're someone like me that tends to stay pretty involved in what's happening, there isn't a lot that's new. That said, and then one other thing I'll say in that regard is probably the biggest announcement at the expo isn't even on the floor, and that is that Microsoft is coming out with a new version of Office later this year. But you wouldn't know that by going to their booth, because they're not telling you that there, unless you walk up and shake somebody and say, are you coming out with a new version of Office? And they'll reluctantly say, oh yeah, I guess we are. But that said, I spent a lot of time at the mobile applications showcase, and it's fun. I mean, unlike the Mac software, there's always something that's a totally new category, something that you either never thought of doing before, or that you didn't see much of before. And some of them are beginning to get familiar. I liked the Park It, whatever it was called, app. I've tried a couple of applications that help you remember where you parked your car. This one seemed particularly slickly done, and I liked it. The retro recorder, I liked. The guy claimed, I haven't been able to try it out, that it enhances the gain on the built-in microphone on your iPhone, so that you could actually put it down on a table and conduct an interview and hear both voices recorded and be able to transcribe the interview later from what you recorded, which is something I'd like to be able to do without having to attach a separate microphone. So that sounded cool. I'm going to check that out. And beyond that, probably the most intriguing thing I saw in terms of which affects my general interest in all things iPhone is that there's a company there called, I'm forgetting their name, it's 4 letters, XT, not like XTND, but close to that, that has a keyboard. And what they did is they took a standard Apple Bluetooth keyboard, the $79 or $69 keyboard, and they added a whole bunch of shortcut features like opening certain apps on your iPhone, or they also have a Mac version, but I was particularly interested in the iPhone and iPad version. You can press one button and open a particular app on your iPhone just by pressing the button, and other shortcuts like that. And they put very nice overlays onto the keyboard, so it almost looks like whatever it is that button can do in addition to its normal function is actually ingrained right on the keyboard. It's a very neat type of overlay. And it will... That
company's Xskin.
Yeah, I knew
XSKN.
Okay, I knew it was something like that. Thank you, Jeff. They say that it's not for sale now because it doesn't work now, because we have to wait till Apple updates their software. But they claim that they've worked in conjunction with Apple. They have Apple's blessing, authorization, sanction, whatever it is that they need to get from Apple, and so it will be an Apple-approved product, and it will not only work with the iPad when all is said and done, but it will work with the iPhone. And as far as I knew, that is the absolute first time that I've seen any indication that official indication, we've all suspected it, but official indication that Apple will extend the external keyboard concept to the iPhone as well as the iPad. So I was intrigued by that.
That sounds very cool. If it'll work.
Yeah.
I just wanted to interject that I agree with Ted very much that there isn't a lot new at the show. And that's another change that I think we're all getting used to. And we would be getting used to it even if Apple wasn't here, because it used to be in the Mac community, in the Mac world, you would save your announcements for Macworld Expo. A developer might roll out a huge new thing at Macworld Expo. But that's not really how the world works anymore for most companies. They roll out new features all the time. To take a really obvious example, it's not quite an Apple company, but Google, if you use any of their products online, I mean, from hour to hour, there may be different features available to you. So the whole idea that things would be stable for a while, and then there would be an announcement at Macworld, and then things would be stable again, that's just not the way the world works anymore. And it makes it a lot harder to get excited about the new stuff at Macworld, because new stuff happens all the time now. It's a different kind of progression. It does make it much more challenging for news people to find out what's the news at Macworld, though. And for people who are looking to just get really wowed, it's harder. There's less that surprises you. We have Facebook and Twitter and all kinds of things to keep us updated to the second about what's new and exciting. So coming here, I think it's more about the people and being able to actually touch products, physical products, like batteries and cases and keyboards and all that.
To go back to show picks, I want to throw a couple out, and one of them actually is behind me, although it's not mine. It just happens to be here. If you're into audio, this is the new Yeti mic from Blue Microphones. They are right down that direction a little bit. It's a $149 USB mic. 3-capsule mic. It has a great warm sound. Actually, this is the first time I picked it up right now. It's got some weight to it. I mean, it's not plastic, folks. It's got multiple pattern settings. It's just a really nice mic for $149. Now, if you're into audio production, that's great, but you can use this for something as simple as Skype if you really want to improve how you sound to the other folks. So, nice product. I wonder if they'd mind if I took it. Chuck.
And we'll be raffling this off to anyone who thinks they can run faster than security.
That's the first USB mic that is THX certified.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yes,
and
that's right.
And another feature, this dial on the back can change the pattern of recording, so that if you want to use it for an interview with people across the table, you can change it to the figure 8, which changes how the condensers work within the mic. And you can change it for forward-facing, for kind of podcasting, news kind of style. That's exactly right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Bidirectional, omnidirectional. Yes.
Are you consulting for Blue?
I did my I knew I was coming here, so I had to do my homework.
I'm impressed. The other interesting thing, anybody that knows me knows I'm boring, so I'm more interested in the business stuff, not the cool stuff. Back along that wall, a company is calling a product called Paper Show. And it's a little bit difficult to understand, but I'll do my best right quick. They give you a little USB key you plug into your Mac. They give you a special pen, and they give you special paper. Okay? So you create your presentation in Keynote, you print it out on the special paper, and use the special pen while it's plugged in, and that sounds convoluted, but trust me, then you basically can write on your presentation while it's up on the screen. The paper has little control surfaces. Yes, I know, the paper has control surfaces, I said that right, where you can pop up Post-it notes and write on the Post-it notes. You can draw diagrams, triangles. It's like having a telestrator that you see on the sports programs for your presentation. And it's only $199 for the whole thing. And the best part is, this is completely portable. So we've all seen the big whiteboard applications that require a lot of hardware, and they'd be great to install in a conference room somewhere. This I can install in my pocket and take it with me.
It also allows you, like in certain applications, you can create partnerships with a square. It's like you just write what it is, move a square around it, tap.
Yeah.
Make numbers, you can automatically have buttons to move you around in your presentation, going backwards or with the program. So you kind of do some programming.
Yeah. The implications for this are just amazing when you think it's for $199 and it's that portable. So no longer do I have to go on a business trip and lug a suitcase full of equipment to be able to have that kind of presentation. I can just take this, plug it into a Mac there, or my Mac or somebody else's, and do a live update to a presentation. So for meetings, for presentations, for whatever, this is very cool. And again, it's what did I just say? Paper. Good, I lost it.
If it
Paper
works-
show. Paper show.
If it works similar to the pulse pen, which I've looked at, the paper is not reusable, so that's a consumable that you'll have to keep replacing.
Yeah, but it's not. I mean, I think it was like 200 sheets for $20, which
It's not bad. And she also said that you can print your own dots, little dots on the paper. You can print your own paper.
Right.
But at the cost of printing your own, you probably shouldn't buy it.
just cheaper to get that. Yeah. How about you folks? We'll give you a chance to do some product picks. Yes, sir.
Being my first time here at Macworld, which I was pretty excited to be here no matter what, even though I heard all these people saying, well, it's not as great as before. I'm pretty much looking at trends, and trends kind of always stand out to me. And because I haven't been here at other shows, I don't know what was in the past. But one of the trends I see, all the iPhones that people have, they're iPhones. But boy, all the printed skins and artwork that are available here by several companies, maybe four or five companies offering skins that you can put on the back of your iPhone and peel those off. Like if you had your boyfriend, a girl had her boyfriend, and you could probably tell the next month or two that boyfriend wasn't on her phone, you knew they broke up, you know what I mean? So it's something that young kids are really going to, I think, take off. It's just going to take off. That individualization of your iPhone, iTouch, Pod, I think that's the brilliant thing I see. And that was one of the things that just jumped out at me. That type of the accessories for your earbuds and stuff, but yeah.
Personalization. Jeff?
Wow. Okay, along those same lines, there's a company over that way somewhere. Well, they're all over that way from where we are. Anyhow, so there's a company over that way that has figured out a way to laminate interesting materials to plastic. And so they're making iPhone cases that have like actual zebra fur on them. But they also have this one that I thought was very interesting. They've laminated it's like a paper surface to the back, and then you can draw and paint and create your own customized iPhone case.
That's the big trend I see coming in.
Yeah, the whole iPhone stuff and the customization always is a big thing, but it seems to be taken to a new level this year. I agree. Ted?
There's one I like, and again, I'm blanking on the name of the company. I think it begins with I, like EYE or something like that. You can print out your own custom photographs that not only cover the back, but cover the front of it as well. It cuts out, obviously, for the iPhone screen, but the rest of the border of the iPhone shows your photograph. And then they gave some examples. They said they're going to actually improve on how you can do this because it was almost an afterthought when they first were developing it. But you can then use the inner part of the photograph, so to speak, make that your wallpaper. And so that when you turn on your iPhone, you see the entire photograph. The outer part of the photograph is the skin, and the inner part of the photograph is your wallpaper. Look kind of cool.
That's an interesting idea. Mm-hmm. Other picks from the floor? Yes, sir.
Over in the special interest pavilion I think it's near the Busy Mac booth, is a product called the Flex Clip, which is an interesting new take on a belt holster clip for your iPhone. If you imagine the letter C and then just make it taller, that's basically what it is. It's got a silicone lining, and you can just slide it right in. It just grabs a little bit, and then you can flip it up towards you. The clip actually
Bit of movement to whatever you're doing, it doesn't pop it off your hip. That's the beauty of that one.
Yes, sir.
Chuck, if I could just interject for a
Tonya,
moment, I want to add some metadata to this, which is just the name of the iPhone or iPod Touch case that you could customize, you could draw on yourself. It's not shipping right now. It's going to be shipping, I think, in March. It's made by a company called Trexta, Trexta, and it's actually really cool that you can actually design your own. You don't have to get someone else to make a picture. You can put your own right on it, just like the one that Ted was describing. Unfortunately, I don't know its name, but I actually plan to go back in March and try to get some. I think it would make a pretty neat gift also for other people, stocking stuffer, that kind of thing. And because it comes in packs of 3, so you could actually make one for them and then give them 2 blanks that they could customize themselves.
I have to point out how incredibly cool Tonya is. Did you notice? She added metadata to the topic.
Yeah, and the reason why I know this is because the way I'm mostly taking notes on the show is I'm taking quick photos as I go, and I had taken a photo of their poster. It's in my iPhone.
Cool idea. I haven't done that.
Chuck?
Eye appeal.
Tonya,
Sorry to interrupt.
Tonya took notes.
And for the more detailed notes, actually, we're channeling the same vibe. I've got a notebook too.
But she has a paperclip too to organize hers.
The name of the company of the product I was talking about is iAppeal, IAPPEEL.
Very cool. Yes, sir. You have one.
Yeah, I found this cool little cord that you hook up to your iPhone, and you can just plug it into like a video projector. And so instead of using your laptop, you just plug your camera in or your iPhone. And so if you have like a movie you've created, you can just boom, plug it in, and kind of a cool little deal. Just plugs right into the phone.
Very nice. You know, Chuck, listening to the recommendations, I'll be right there, Ross. Listening to the recommendations, it strikes me about what you were saying, and I think some of the other panelists were saying. Everything is very specialized. We're not seeing those apps that, oh, I got to have it. You know, everybody here wants it. Everybody out here wants it. But you're seeing a lot of different little things that really appeal. I mean, I told you, I have no funds, so the whole case customization thing is not for me, but obviously it has a lot of appeal to a lot of people. So it's all in what your audience is, what you're doing, and what you want to do. There's something out there for you.
Yeah. So I think that points to the fact that this is a very vibrant, vital community where there is this kind of diversity of interests and companies who can make a living appealing to those interests. You know, if the return on the investment wasn't out there, you wouldn't see all these companies doing things. But there are enough of us interested in these things and enough of us willing to put out our money for it to keep these people in business.
There's an app for that.
There's an app for that.
There's an app for that, Roz.
This lanyard holder for the Nano, and they've iPhone, and there's even one you can put your iPhone in, and it's a steering wheel for the accelerometer games. I love it. It's $10, and I will no longer feel my fingers.
That's by Klingo, right?
Klingo,
yeah.
Just near the 1700 sign.
Yep.
Thank you. Other recommendations? I know that you people are holding out on me. No, really? I'll throw one in for those of you who are traveling, which is a lot of us. A little iPhone app and web service called TripIt. This is not new, except they gave some new enhancements this time. They are in the mobile pavilion as well. Basically, to try to describe it to you, once you sign up for their service, which is free, you get an email address with TripIt. So when you get your airline reservation email, the confirmation, or your hotel confirmation or whatever, you forward it to your TripIt account. And it organizes all that information on the web. All right, that's great. What does that do for you? There's an iPhone app for TripIt that will sync automatically. You log into your account on that app once, and then you're done. And now your iPhone app has all your flight information, all your hotel information, all the confirmation numbers, your frequent flyer numbers, all that travel information right in your pocket, ready to go. Very, very cool little app. Yeah. They do have a pro version, obviously, because they got to make money, but the free app does an awful lot. So if you're thinking about flying home and would like to have that, if you're like me and heading back into snow country, it might be good to have some of that.
That saved me a lot of time on this very trip because I have a space in my last name. It's LA space and then T. So computer systems are constantly mangling my name. So this trip I was Mr. Tournous, Law. My first name is Law. So they couldn't find my registration when I came to check into my hotel, but because I had TripIt, it had the confirmation number for the hotel right there, and I showed it to the desk clerk and was able to get my room. And they even upgraded me because of the trouble, so thank you, TripIt.
Wow, that's an endorsement. Endorsed by Mr. Law.
Mr. Tournous Law.
Tournous Law. Tournous Law. Guys, trends, we're almost out of time, but trends going forward. What do you think we're going to see next year? What do you think we're going to see in the coming year, I should say, from just a Mac, iPhone, iPad perspective? And I snuck the iPad word in there.
Yeah, I think that's the obvious trend that or prediction for next year, that we're going to see iPad. The iPhone is already taking over the predominance of what we see here. I commented earlier today that I looked at the Macworld magazine Best of Show Awards. They gave out awards to 11 products. 6 of the products that they gave awards to were iPhone apps. I believe 2 or 3 of the remaining 5 were iPhone peripherals. And so, this is on its way to already on its way to becoming an iPhone Expo more than Mac Expo. And I think with the iPad, that's going to even expand more because the iPad is going to be more of a Mac-like product. iWork is going to run on the iPad. By next year, who knows what else will be running on the iPad. It's very close to a genuine computer, much more so than the iPhone is. And so I think that's where a lot of the action is going to be next year.
Tonya?
I'll second that. I think next year we might as well just call it iPad World or iPad Expo and just be done with that. I mean, if you're already making iPhone apps, you want your app to run on the iPad. I'm not sure how many people are going to run out and buy iPads. I'd actually like to know who in the audience plans to have an iPad before summer. All right, and who's thinking maybe Christmas presents or holiday presents?
I'm not going to wait that long.
It's a really exciting thing, and I think what a lot of us see is that this is version 1, and we're thinking 3 years from now, what's it going to be like? And I think everybody wants to get in on the ground floor. I think it's actually a lot more exciting than the iPhone because the things it can do and what it makes possible. And also, if you've used an iPhone, the screen is really small. It works, but it's darn small. And all of a sudden, when you start thinking what you could do with an app that was a lot bigger, and I think we're going to be here, if we're here exactly here next year, we're just going to be spouting out about the iPad.
Well, just to interrupt, in that regard, for those of you who were here back in 2007 when the iPhone was introduced in Steve's keynote, think back to what he said then and think what the iPhone is doing today here at the Expo. I mean, could you have even imagined listening to Steve, who's after all hyping it and trying to tell you what an amazing device it is? Even he couldn't begin to imagine the things that we're doing with it now. So imagine where the iPad will be 3 years from now.
Yeah. You're it, Jeff.
Yeah, it's iPad Expo next year. Totally. Well, okay, if you look at what's already happened with the iPhone, it's going to be iPad. The iPhone has taken over. Everyone's been waiting for the iPad. And what we could do next year, I think, is have the whole Expo and then a Mac pavilion in the Expo.
That's right. With little tables that have 4 vendors to a table divided like pie slices.
Chuck, help me out. I don't know how you follow that.
Can we have a naysayer? Is there a different opinion, or do we just all agree?
No, I'm getting there.
I do agree that it's going to happen. I'm still on the fence. I've talked about this ad nauseum. I'm waiting for something that's I think is still missing from the iPad. I want to see it before I commit to it. It's going to be huge. We know that. I just hope that it doesn't crowd out the rest of the market. What I really want to see next year, and what trend I would like to see happen, is kind of what's going on now. I don't want a big, huge Microsoft booth, and I don't want a big FileMaker Pro booth. I don't think those companies are interesting enough anymore. I think the real exciting stuff is happening in these smaller companies who are doing maybe 1 or 2 apps, but really cool stuff. Things that are compelling, things that are different. And that's where I want to see the growth in Macworld. I would rather see more of these kind of developers and let Microsoft and Apple keep their big booths in a storage closet somewhere.
And I have to tell you, I'm not sure I agree with you all. I think that I think there's going to be a big iPad presence.
Who are you exactly?
What?
Who are you exactly?
I'm the guy that can wave to the guys who cut the mics. No.
But you're not at a table. You don't have to.
Yeah, well, I got the high chair. I took the high ground. No, I think that there's going to be a lot of iPad presence, but it's not a Mac tablet. And that's a key point here. It's not going to replace your Mac. It's not going to replace your iPhone. It's going to supplement everything. So I think there's just as big an opportunity for Mac developers to do continued cool things with an iPad/iPhone component. I see it as the ecosystem developing and spreading out a little more rather than cannibalizing each other. I think that's where the smart developers are, because I think you're seeing that here already with the iPhone-Macintosh relationship, and I think that's going to expand more with the iPad, because it's going to be a different product and is just a different product.
Can I? Go ahead.
I think part of the problem with Mac development and Mac presence here at Macworld is that Apple has taken over so much of the mass market and even to some extent the specialized market. I mean, once you get past the fact that your Mac comes with Mail and Safari and iTunes and all the other things that it comes with, and then it comes in most cases pre-installed with iLife software, so you have iPhoto and iMovie and GarageBand, and maybe you bought iWork and it has Pages and so on, and then you can get into Final Cut and Logic if you're into creative aspects of it. Once you get through all that stuff, what's left that you want to buy that's going to appeal to like 80 to 90% of Mac users? Very little. What's left is the specialized stuff that Apple doesn't want to touch. And that's partly, I think, what drives the fact that there's less and less Mac stuff and more very specialized stuff.
But doesn't go to what Chuck said about just the specialization.
This iPad, I got a big hit on this.
Okay.
You know, this iPad, I remember when Steve Jobs was trying to get the radio companies, the recording companies to come along and sell their music on iTunes, and everyone was balking. And Apple was nowhere in this business. And they have surpassed Best Buy, they've surpassed Walmart. They are the #1 seller of music. And they don't even have in retail stores to sell the music. That's huge. Now you come with this iPad. There are, I think, 5 major booksellers that have signed up, publication houses that have signed up for the iPad. And I just realized a week or two, one major publisher pulled out of Amazon on their contract. That's huge. And then the biggest hit was kids the other day. I was talking with them. And they're lugging 5 and 6 heavy books home every day, back and forth to school. And I remember when Steve, with the first iMacs, or the first Macs, he went to the schools and gave them huge discounts to put these in the schools and the universities. And I can see having this iPad and having all my textbooks on this iPad as a kid in elementary, junior high, high school, carrying that back and forth instead of carrying a whole bundle of books. I see this as huge, just huge.
I go back all the way to 1984 when I bought a 128K Mac. And back in those days, Apple actually sold, and I still have it in my basement. That's probably not worth not the 120K Mac, I got rid of that, but what I still have in my basement is the original travel case that they had for a 128K Mac. It was meant to be like a shoulder bag almost, and they had photographs of students carrying it to class, and that was the idea of a portable Mac back in those days. So things have really changed.
Well, we actually have I think maybe a high school student in the audience, and I saw kind of a smile and a hand rub.
Kids these days, they don't want to lug books like we did.
Builds character, come on.
Hey guys, we're almost out of time. I tell you, we got to cut this off, but I do want to give the panelists a chance just to go across and talk about what they do, where you can find them. So we have just a couple minutes. Ted, where do people find you and what you do?
I'm sitting right here.
Thank you. Tonya, where?
Mac Observer is probably the main place right now, which I'm joined by colleagues from.
And thanks for writing for us.
Yes, and I also write a weekly blog for Macworld magazine called Bugs and Fixes.
Great. Tanya?
I'm editor-in-chief of a series of electronic books about how to use your Macintosh and related topics. It's called Take Control, takecontrolbooks.com. And if you want to know how to take control of something related to this universe, you should definitely check us out. We are currently looking at how quickly we can get really awesome iPad books available. So that will probably be our main focus for the next, say, 2 months after we get a few other books out that we're also focusing on. We're often quite busy.
Jeff?
I'm the managing editor for Mac Observer, which means I sit at my desk all day. I also write for Design Tools Monthly, Layers Magazine, Photoshop User Magazine, I think something else that I can't remember. Oh, InDesign Magazine. And then I do the Apple Context Machine podcast, iPhone Alley podcast, Design Tools Weekly podcast, and then whenever Chuck is feeling especially lonely and needs someone on MacJury, I'm there for him.
Which is why he's such a frequent guest. Chuck?
I have to follow this laundry list. I write for randomaccess.com, 2 M's, 2 C's, 2 S's. Also, I'm a contributing editor for the Mac Observer, where Jeff is my boss, so I'll be
And thanks for writing for us.
Thank you. and do an occasional MacJury. And I'll give one last plug because I think it's something that we gave kind of short shrift here. I'll be doing a conference session tomorrow morning at 10:30 on keyboard shortcuts. It's called Look Ma No Mouse. So I invite you to come to that. And also, how many people have gone to any conference sessions while you're out here? Okay, that's one of the real true values of Macworld. So I'd encourage you to check out the conference programs. There are dozens of great classes that'll help you get more out of your Mac in all sorts of different fields. So if you're only on the show floor during Macworld, you're missing half the fun.
Thank you, Chuck. My name's Chuck Joyner. I do this show, which is called the MacJury at MacJury.com, MacVoices at MacVoices.com, MacNotables at MacNotables.com, and what else is there? Oh, MacVoices TV at MacVoices.tv. How could I forget that one? Which is where you will find the video of this session if everything went well back there. So please check us out. Thank you all for coming. Guys, thank you very much for your time. Have a great Macworld. We will see you back here next year for Macworld 2011. Thanks.
That's great.
Thank you.
MacVoices TV at Macworld 2010 is sponsored by Data Robotics, the makers of Drobo and Drobo S, the world's best data storage experience. MacVoices TV is part of the MacVoices Group and a member of Mac Level 10.